Next up, we have Bob Pucci from the state of Tennessee. He's the Executive Director of Intelligent Automation, and you're gonna love this story of how automation has really scaled, Tennessee has scaled automation across the state.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. That's gonna be tough to beat. I mean, that was a great intro from Mike. But there's one word that he did say in his excellent intro, and that is nimbleness. And I think what we're going to show here today, I hope anyways, is that be it public sector or be it private sector, what we've been able to accomplish through a great collaboration is nimbleness. And any of us that are in public sector know that's kind of difficult to attain. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to first show you where we are today, a snapshot of where we are today in fiscal year 23. And then I'm going to show you how we got there. So I'm going to go back to fiscal year 22, which enabled us to have the springboard to accomplish what we've done. And then we're going to look at the roadmap where we're going to go, and then also some lessons learned on that. So, little housekeeping. I'd like to give a shout out to UiPath, Terry, Pradeep and Phil, because they're the ones that worked with me diligently for like 2 to 3 months to get me a very attractive ELA that benefited the state and my roadmap and my vision. My role is pretty much the strategy, vision, roadmap for the automation, also the obviously the deployment and successful delivery and maintenance of that. That other end of that piece is only successful because I have an incredible business partner, and that's with Christina Seacrest, who's the engagement partner, Oscar Marin, who's the technical manager director, and person that's joined at the hip with me on a delivery partner is Brock Lambert. Right? So this team is really incredible. So this isn't a one-man band. This is a great collaboration that we all have to work interactively to attain the incredible milestones we did. Okay, so let's go in here. So roughly about 3 or 4 years ago, whenever it was, the state decided to roll out and improve their citizenship or citizen customer service to go from good to great. So they ended up saying, okay, where should we start? And we decided to start at the 23 executive agencies across the state. And as such, it's one of the top 5 priorities in the state of Tennessee's initiative. That was interesting. I didn't do that, I swear. Okay, so so the color coding is very important here, because when you normally look at some initiatives, they try to do it in a silo fashion. Let's do this agency, let's do this division. Well, these programs aren't that fast. So then all of a sudden you lose your momentum, the excitement across the landscape, if you will. So what we did is, again, I didn't do that, I promise. Okay. So what we decided to do was look at the agencies, little help here, the agencies across the, okay, let's try it again. So you can see in the blue coded is what we looked at as 11 agencies simultaneously. So we had a bunch of multi-teams going out to do process discovery and process inventory, and then we would basically build our backlog and prioritize to start building out sprints to bring these processes to automations. So this is what we've accomplished just in, I don't know, probably about 16 months. We've been able to do what's in color-coded blue. Each agency in the state of Tennessee is roughly about 8 divisions, if you will, on that. What we're starting in December is the green, where we have roughly 7 agencies, and then we'll be doing the big ones in fiscal year 24. The objective is to have this all covered and completed by next 4 years. So fiscal year 27, we expect to have the whole state automated in process automation with UiPath. So trying to see. One of the things that we've identified is that as we're going across and sprinkling, if you will, the automations across agencies, like our next sprint coming up, we have roughly automations going out across 7 agencies. So everyone is going to feel the benefits, if you will, and then we end up getting this Me Too or a grassroots effort to want to be part of the program. So that's where we were or where we are today. But how did we get there? So in fiscal year 22, we really I had to come up with all pick the product, which I picked UiPath, et cetera, all the contract, all that stuff that's needed, so you could see that in the pre-sale activity. But then when I met with the vendors and I looked at the scope, we needed to do things that were independent of each other, because I myself were given timelines from my upper management that we had to get this done. Unfortunately, I didn't have a year like everyone else should have had, but I had roughly 4 to 6 months to do this. So we ended up separating the work streams, the statement of contract, into 3 work streams. Number 1 was define all of the architectures for all the environments: dev, test, prod, disaster recovery. Get that done and get it signed off by the state. Number 2 was we looked at 3 divisions: benefits administration, human resources, and STS is really the organization for the CIO, and do a process inventory on that. And then based on that process inventory, build out 4 prototypes. The 4 prototypes were not a proof of concept, mature product, as we know UiPath is, not a proof of technology, been around for a while. But what we called it was a proof of perceived business value, because upper management and the investment that was coming from the legislation was, we're going to be able to save all this money. But they weren't going to roll the dice on that. So we ended up doing the build out of these 4 prototypes, and then they were able to see the potential return on investment on that. And that was kind of our catapult on that. Probably the third and most important work stream was defining the center of excellence and that foundation. And that wasn't just in myself and my business partner's mind, but also bringing in the other organizations. So when we wanted to roll out a bot into production, change management, production release, everything else. So work with all of the organizations and get them to sign off on a very, very complex RACI matrix on what needed to get done to make it successful. So these are the 3 things that we did. Now, unfortunately, I think I was a little bit too aggressive, and we did it in 9 weeks, no problem. The EY did really well in performing that, and UiPath responded very well in setting up the licensing. But I think it was a shock for the state. They just didn't move that fast, right? But the point is, we were able to do it. Hindsight, probably would have done 12 or 16 weeks, but we were taking everyone by surprise, if you will, doing this. But we accomplished everything, actually exceeded. We were supposed to do 20 low-hanging fruit or opportunities, and EY identified 40. So we're able to over-deliver, under-price, and under time. So that was a good accomplishment on that. So this is the blueprint that we use. Because we have everything here, the COE, the architectures, et cetera, we are able to move very, very fast when it comes to development of future bots. So in fiscal year 22, as I mentioned, we did the COE foundation. And then we decided, and it was a collective effort from myself, EY, and the architecture team of the state, saying, guys, you want us to load all this on premise? You want us to load this on your cloud and you manage it? Or do you want us to use the UiPath SaaS model? They're like, okay, we'll use the UiPath SaaS model. So the way we have it, our architecture is very clean. We have the orchestrator, attended bots, and all the other components, process designer, automation hub, task miner, are all in the UiPath SaaS cloud. And then on our side, we use AWS, and that's where our unattended bots are. And our unattended bots is what really talks to all the legacy systems, if you will, that are inside the state of Tennessee intranet piece. So then we started building out the 40 automations and creating the reusable library, et cetera. And we roughly went, I think we started November 1st, and we completed by June 30th. So we were able to put in 40 bots, 25,000 to 75,000 hours saved in that 9-month time frame. In fiscal year 23 is when we solidified the ELA, again, sticking with the SaaS model with UiPath. And then we also looked at doing, initially when we looked at our architecture, it was one process per server, per EC2 instance. And obviously we didn't want to have 250 bots and 250 servers, right? So we looked at optimizing. I worked very closely with Oscar from EY. And we looked at how do we optimize, in other words, multiple processes per bot and multiple bots per server, right? So optimally it's like 8. We ended up configuring this past week for 4 processes per bot and 4 bots per server. That meant we went down from 60 down to 8 servers, 8, to manage 120 bots. So just think about that, economies of scale we were able to attain on that. We also built out the executive dashboard, moved everything from a spreadsheet over to Automation Hub, set up micro-learning for the agencies to learn Automation Hub, and also automated the incident monitoring so we could basically have the bot say, hey, the network's down, the server's down, what have you, and flag up customer care. So we removed that manual intervention out, which saved us around 3,000 to 4,000 hours. So right now we're doing 80 automations. That's going to cross 11 agencies on that. Started, when did we start? I think we started in July, and then that's going to go and be all live by June on that. And then we'll do another 70, et cetera. You can see how we go on here, right? So and we just started working with citizen facing. We started expanding using OCR, ICR. Next year, we'll be using virtual agents. And it's pretty much in a nutshell. Now, how do we do this? How are we able to move so fast, get across all these agencies in a pretty short time, right? I mean, we're going to have 120 bots across 13 agencies in a year and a half. Well, it's because we looked at it and we saw all these processes that were inventoried by Ernst & Young. And I was like, there's no way. It'll be a 20-year program. So I got with the analysts of Ernst & Young, and we said, hey, what is, how many processes give me 80% of the hours? And they went through the processes, and let's say we had 500 hours, and to get the 80% of the hours, it was 25%. So we said, okay, let's go after the 25%. So we implemented a 25-80 rule, which enables us to claim victory because we're only doing 125 bots, but it's covering 80% of the hours on that. A couple other things we did is we implemented a multiplier, so where we were able to identify, so there's 23 agencies, they all have 8 divisions. Each division has a fiscal organization, administrative organization, a procurement organization, a communications organization. So we started looking at, well, gee, this bot that we built over in a tourist agency, we could reuse this bot across the 20 to 40 divisions. So not reusability of code, but reusability of the bot. And that's where we were, again, to have the economies of scale that we needed. So it's all this kind of forward thinking and kind of pre-planning that we're able to do. Again, it's probably my background, but really the immense background that EY brought back in doing automations that enabled us to put these stakes in the ground and these design principles that enable us to be so nimble on that. So when we go in fiscal year 24, and we're doing those 70 automations across another 9 agencies, we're only going to have to increase 1 or 2 servers. That's it. And even though it takes 20 minutes, we're getting that down to 5 minutes. So now you're saying to load up 2 servers in EC2, it's going to take 20 minutes. That's our operational effort to be ready for the next wave of bots. So, and I think that's about it. Any questions at all? Well, I'm sorry, we got to go with my intangibles. So now, through all this, it wasn't that easy, obviously, so we came up with tangible and intangible lessons learned. And I put these in blue, and it kind of looks foolish, right? Because I probably should have made everything blue, because I really think all of these are very important. But it's really about collaborate and collaborate and collaborate nonstop. This is not flip the switch and you're doing the PM meetings, et cetera, and it's just going on by itself. It's not happening. So this was a lot of collaboration with myself and EY, and also UiPath in the beginning stages, and I'm going to call it the embryonic stages to get the right fit of software and such. And we're not always planning for today or this month, but where do we see ourselves in this program in the next 2 to 3 or 4 years? What type of intelligent automation technology are we going to bring in, either that exists under the UiPath umbrella, or we're going to have to augment it? Right? But that's kind of the forward thinking that we have to do, the plan, to do the right planning, because it's not always that easy to move organizations in the state or federal level. The other thing is you need to identify like who are the process owners, application owners, and do they have the authority to make a decision? And yes, we will own this process. Yes, we want this automation. And then one of the key things we did, people were always saying, well, gee, Bob, you must be a great guy. Everyone's working with you. That's not it at all, trust me. But it's really that my leadership team, when we had a strategy meeting last year, said list all of the work items you need to make the program successful. I had no idea what that was for, so this is about 20 items. And then they said, okay, and tell us what sub-organizations it goes in, like procurement, architecture, cloud, et cetera. So I did that, provisioning on premise or for endpoints. And then the next thing I knew, they put these work items in everyone's individual performance plan. So now everyone had skin in the game. Everyone was going to help the process automation initiative be successful if they wanted their bonus, if they wanted a good rating, right? So it was ingenious, actually, to do that. Because in general, people are risk averse. So that made it very important to do that. As I mentioned, item 2, 12 to 16 weeks would have been much better. But the other thing also is that one of the things the state's a very frugal organization. We're very proud of that in our budgeting. And they've appointed, I have a very, very senior project manager that does all the fiscal management, if you will. So we're meeting once or twice a week on that. And then they gave me a navigator, right? Because the state is very complex. So the finance manager had 26 years experience, and then the other director who helped me navigate through the organization, she had about 17 years. So I had these two working in tandem, and also making sure all the application owners gave us access for the bots, et cetera, et cetera. So it was this collaboration on the state side to help me navigate through the maze, make sure that we were financially compliant and staying under budget. And then I had the EY side where we were planning for today and tomorrow, right? And we had to always make that come together. Like that. The other thing is, as I mentioned, we did a proactive design for reusability. And then I just think, I just turned 30 last week, but just a proactive ability to look ahead at, possible potholes. I know Brock is going through a number of automation projects, so we've always been able to collaborate and make sure that we don't have a gotcha, right? So we've been able, miraculously, to avoid any of the gotchas, if you will, that you would normally have in a program this size. Again, this is going statewide, a whole umbrella or a net over the whole state of Tennessee for the executive branches. Now, what's additionally happening is we're having additional organizations outside of the executive agencies raise their hand and being very interested in working with us as well. So, in parallel to all the development, what we're talking about, and getting all these bots up and all that other bureaucratic stuff, there's really 3 work streams we do. One of those work streams is to cultivate the pipeline, right? So we have this one team that's going out and interviewing and doing all that stuff for process design and process inventory and process discovery. And then we have another team that's saying, okay, let's put these in the pipeline and then we'll build them out to make the bots, okay? Then there's another team that does all the architecture support, so we help the state. And then we also do the production support, right? So it's 3 teams. The inventory team, I've given them parameters that we don't do any process under 900 hours a year. The first phase we did not under 400 hours. Now we're doing 900. But now we're finding some that are 1,000, 20,000, 30,000 hours for one process. But we have metrics to make this the ROI model. And our ROI model right now is to accomplish in 3.5 to 4 years on that because of the aggression we're taking and the limits, if you will, or the levels we're requiring for hours to attain on that. We're closely monitored, so our steering committee, so I'm the solution owner, buck stops here, I guess, and then I'm also a solution sponsor, I don't know how that works, and then my deputy is also a solution sponsor, and then it jumps up to the commissioner, like the deputy commissioner, and he's a business sponsor. And then we have the CIO, and what the CIO does is the glue. She basically makes sure that all of our business metrics, quantitative, qualitative, are meeting the goals, if we're staying under budget. So we're meeting the financial commitment of the state. So she's that person, and she's very, very granular, very detailed on that. So we are, you know, our pulse is checked weekly, let's put it that way. And that's pretty much it. We have unprecedented support by our business and IT leadership. When they're talking on legislation, for example, we've had to come up with demos and provide them so they could actually demonstrate to the legislation. So it's that's basically about it. Any questions at all? I know I've talked very fast. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You talked about micro-learning for the agency.
Yeah.
The adoption of Automation Hub. Can you please tell us more about it? How do you actually get it? Like, you have had training, or was it, what kind of enablement?
Yeah, so it's basically a bi-weekly plan that we do, and so I do the initial rollout, if you will, or what we're doing, and then Ernst & Young does the Automation Hub sessions, if you will, but we video record them, and then we put them on an on-premise server, right? So people like new people coming in, but there's actually, for Automation Hub itself, there's 6 training sessions. So first there's the principles of the Automation Hub. Okay, here it is, not a hello world, but basically simple. Then we take a real life use case. This is the use case we did for F&A, accounts payable, whatever, right? And we actually walk the team through that, and then we give them a simulation. Okay, how would you go about doing that, right? But we've enriched the Automation Hub to be more state compliant with FedRAMP and FTI and a bunch of other things we want, like multipliers to see if we're going to get more hours, et cetera. So we've done significant configuration to the Automation Hub itself to make it very state specific on that, right? But that's how we're doing it now, is the micro. So we'll probably do the Automation Hub, and the reason why we're doing this is to spread the word, right? To sprinkle the pixie dust, whatever you want to call it, right? So now we have directors, we have IT managers, we have enterprise solution business architects, we have business analysts, all wanting to say, hey, I have a process, right? So what's happening next is in this year's IPPs, I'm putting in, each person has to come to me with 10 automation suggestions, ideations, right? But they have to be X number of hours, right? So now if you have 50 to 100 people bringing in 10, right? So now you just have this whole grassroots effort, and that's what we're getting to on that. So, any other questions at all?
We've got time at the end for
good.
questions. We can gather everybody. We built some extra time in for the
Okay.
session. So
Thank you so much.
thank you so much, Bob. This is great. This is really good. Yeah.